Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Crystal Lequang from Amazáe Events here in Silicon Valley, California. Crystal, thank you for joining us here for this testimonial for brainSHARE Coach and Joe Siecinski.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's start out by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. I'm been in the area. I'm pretty much native here for almost 40 years. And my business is actually in event production. And we've had, the company been running for about 18 years now. And what we do is more than just kind of events, but actually kind of from start to finish, from designing, implementing, logistics, venue referrals, and everything in between. So we're a little bit bigger than a mom and pop, but not our huge like DMC.
Great. And so you've been working with Joe Siecinski at brainSHARE Coach for a little while. What prompted you to reach out and start working with us?
No, it's a great question, actually. It was years ago, and Joe's been a godsend since, but when I first actually, it was actually 7 years ago now, I was actually going to close shop. Honestly, we were in the red, and I was kind of sick of, I came from corporate. I was a HP project manager and definitely working a lot less and having a lot more at the time. And I just was sick of, at that point, my family just started, and I was like, I'm sick and tired of kind of putting our family at risk. So I was going to close shop, and but instead of that, being the kind of non-quitter it was, I said, it's either balls to the wall, really, to be honest with you, and find out what's wrong and figure it out, and then quit. So that was a decision, and part of that was actually reaching out to the people and reaching out to resources. I ran into Joe somehow. I still remember this day where he said, work with me, but join the chamber first, and which he still does to this day, but for good reason. That has also been a godsend too. But that was why I really knew that I needed somebody outside of my industry. I needed somebody who was, even though I went to school with a business degree, it's very different when you're in your business, right?
Right.
Or so you thought you were in your business or working in your business. And so having Joe there was that.
Got it. So when you think about that, and when you were looking at the situation at that time, 7 years ago, when you first interacted with Joe, but were there any specific things that you were looking at that were the, critical elements that you said, I need help with this and that?
Actually, I do think, it was a while ago, and I'm sure I was like, I need a lot. But when I met Joe, I think you don't realize until I did start working with Joe that you don't realize what you really needed. At that time, I just thought I needed somebody to get me out of the red. Like that was just in my head, right? So if I'm going to keep this business, how do I get out to the red? And I knew operationally that we were kicking butt. I knew that we gave a good product. Even to this day, we've always had raving reviews. I know we've had customers come back. So I knew that was a space that we excelled in. And so it didn't make sense to me how we could be losing so much money but be so, fulfilling our duties and going above and beyond. So I think that's where it came to when I started working with Joe, was I just hadn't looked at my financials the way I should have. Right? In fact, probably didn't even care to be honest with you. I love math, but I hated looking at all that. And that was his, kind of his first kind of slap on my wrist of like asking me these questions that I couldn't answer. So, that's where it was. It started with the financials and then working backwards from there to figure out what it was the company needed.
Got it. So what's been the result of all this now? Where are you today?
Yeah. I'd say, pre-COVID, but I'll give a COVID, I think has impacted everybody. But I will say though, if it wasn't for the fact of the work with Joe and putting what I did put into place, I know COVID would have wiped us out. Because I wouldn't have known my financials the way I do to be able to foresee what the impact would be. Like I knew for sure when COVID first happened, it would not just be a few weeks, a few months. For our industry, it's going to be a few years. If it wasn't for all that, structural foundation, I don't think we would still be here right now.
Got it. And how are things looking as you kind of gaze forward, you've had to make some adjustments and adaptations to the way you do what you do as an event company, right? An event planning company. And what are you seeing on the horizon? Where do you think things are going to head for you?
I wouldn't say back to where they are. I think, ironically, I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned the most from Joe is like, you don't look at where you are, you look at where you want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that where you want to be continually shifts. What's in the horizon for myself personally is going back to those core things, going back to taking a look. And that's what I have been doing. You had to do it for 2021, now having to do it to 2022 and looking at where our goals are going to be there. What do I need to make the shifts for there? But I see they're very approachable. Like they're doable. I feel like there's a path and a direction for that with everything I've learned.
Good. Glad to hear that. We look forward to seeing you thrive here as we move forward. So one last thing to ask you regarding your interactions here with Joe and brainSHARE Coach. If you were to come across someone or someone to ask you about coaching activities, things like that, and knowing what you know about your experiences with brainSHARE and Joe in particular, what would you tell them?
I would say don't be scared first. I think often, people think of the word coaching that someone's going to try to do everything differently or, be told what to do, or, you're unveiling the curtain and you have to accept to yourself the things that aren't working well, right? And I would say working with Joe, I think that's where the comfortability is, right? Everything is behind closed doors in the sense of, he's not out there, he's sharing too. If I were to see somebody, I would say this is absolutely, I might say this actually when I have a lot of friends, obviously, who are their own business owners. And I'm always like, get a coach, and you need a coach like Joe. And I usually say why. I say why, because he's upfront. There's no like, yes, you're paying and it's completely worth it, because there's always a positive outcome.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for that.